Actors ask, what's my motivation in this scene? Wannabe actor Howard has the motivation of superstition, and he wants to sweep the ghostly spirit of Gideon Goosebury from the stage. A director has to know blocking. Why block this scene to have Charles burst out of the prop room like he's been drugged? Because Charles bursting out will make Mabel, and hopefully the audience, forget that Mabel was mentioning an important clue. Dr. C's drugs didn't show up in Ben's autopsy. As a writer, you have to foreshadow. Where is the story going? What's being foreshadowed by Howard mentioning KT's office was locked on opening night? Is the writer foreshadowing that someone was using the paper shredder to destroy important documents? Or are the writers foreshadowing the killer hid Ben's missing mangoes in the office, which would explain why Ben attacked KT for stealing those mangoes? Or are the writers foreshadowing that someone was hiding in the office? Motivation, blocking, foreshadowing. All of them were ripped in the initial review of Death Rattle. We're more than halfway through Season 3. Who do you think killed Ben Glenroy? Let's solve Only Murders in the Building, Season 3, Episode 6, Ghost Light. All roads lead back to the Goosebury Theater during a nerve-rattling thunderstorm. With Howard as their jittery guide, they track a legendary ghost who's haunted the theater for generations. We'll be breaking down each episode for clues, suspects, and red herrings on the hunt to learn who killed Ben Glenroy. Spoilers up through Season 3, Episode 6 of Omit B if you haven't seen all these episodes. Pause this video, feed Hugh Jackman after midnight, and then come back and watch the rest. Note, last week, Architectural Digest put out a great video on a tour of the Season 3 sets, and believe it or not, there may be a couple of clues in their videos. So once again, at the end of this video right here, I'm going to review that Architectural Digest video and look at the clues, and we'll find out. Do you think these are real clues? Fake clues? What do you think? Use the timestamps below to jump to the topic or suspect that you want to hear about, and skip past the stuff you don't want to hear. We're past the halfway point, and you know what that means. Every season we have to pick ship names. That's right. Last year we had a romance between Mabel and Alice and dubbed their relationship name Malice. This year, 3 possibilities. We've got 3 ship names to break down. What do you like? We've got Oliver and Loretta. What do you want the ship name to be? Do you want it to be Oliretta or Loriver? How about Mabel and Tobert? We've got Mabert or Table. Okay, yeah, I like Table already. But vote, hey, let us down, reply to us and let us know what you think the ship name should be. We got one more, Charles and Joy. They're in a rough spot right now. Do you prefer Jorals or Joy? What do you think these ship names should be? Hey, Theo Demas is still out there. Theo and Mabel, maybe. Who's to say that Howard and Jonathan need a Joward relationship name? Go down in the comments and let us know. It's time for those double C credit clues. Ooh, Gideon Goosebury may be haunting the Arconia as well. His sandbags are falling. This week we're wrapping up the final bit of coverage of The After Party Season 2. We're still talking Ahsoka on Disney+. Also, hey, if you watched Season 1 of the fantasy show The Wheel of Time on Amazon, it was uneven, let's be honest. But so far, 2 episodes into Season 2, I think The Wheel of Time has become really good. You can check out Double M Matt Murdock's podcast breaking down all of Season 2 on his Busting Blockbusters podcast feed. Know you can always like the video, comment on the video, please subscribe to the video. If you're listening on audio podcast, we need those written reviews and subscriptions as well. Plus, you want to talk to us on social media at PHQ, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads, Facebook.com/PHQ. That's the word double single letter P for podcast, HQ for headquarters. Plus, we get some email occasionally, hello@PPmedia.com. Before we run down the suspects, let's see what Episode 6 taught us about the victim, actor Ben Glenroy. Ben was taking drugs from Dr. C, beta blockers, Propecia, and just a dash of methamphetamines. Yet none of those showed up in Ben's autopsy. Why not? From former director Jerry Blau, we find out that Ben and Loretta were rehearsing their scene right before they got into their fight. Are we sure Ben caused the fight? Now let's look at the suspects, and I do apologize. I do think we need Ben 2 back on the suspect list. Why didn't those drugs that Ben was taking show up in his autopsy? Well, perhaps because his twin was taking those drugs. Also, the twin, and I suppose Dr. C and Tobert, those are the only three suspects we can really think of who called Ben while he was at the party at Oliver's apartment. Loretta Durkin. Loretta wasn't in this episode, but we see a note that may be her handwriting. Note it reads, first preview October 13th. For comps, there's Marlon, Lori, Nancy, Faisal, Opal, Nora, Betsy. Oliver is quick to suspect Loretta wrote this note. But hey, I'm not a handwriting analysis expert, but let's look at the three handwriting samples we have. We have the note which came with the handkerchief, which Charles got as a gift. We have the effing pig writing on the mirror. Plus, we have this handwriting on Loretta's note. We can compare a capital F from all three. Looking at these, I'm not sure any of these Fs bear much similarity. What do you guys think? Let's look at the letter P from the note Charles got with the handkerchief. It does look different than the letter P written in lipstick on the mirror and the letter P on the Loretta notepad. That P and the P on the mirror are very similar. However, let's look at an N example. On the left, you have the letter N. It almost looks more like a backwards U, but that's a letter N from the note Charles got. That is much more similar to the N that was written on the mirror. Both of those are very similar. A completely different looking capital N is on the notepad with Loretta's name at the top. This is the N in Nancy. This doesn't look anything like the other two N's. What do you guys think? Do you think Loretta wrote that in lipstick on Ben's mirror? I still don't think that's Loretta writing it. I think Ben wrote it himself still. Dickie, Ben's brother and assistant. I was speaking with YouTuber Megan recently, and Dickie does not appear in these episodes. He didn't actually physically appear in a scene in episode 4, episode 5, or episode 6. His image does appear in all the pictures in Loretta's scrapbook in episode 5, and he just keeps coming up. Why aren't the podcast trio looking at Dickie? Tobert, as we know, is a documentarian, and he claims he filmed a ghost hunters documentary aboard the Queen Mary and found the white woman. Was she in the white room? We know Mabel's really smart, but why hasn't she been reviewing more of the footage Tobert shot for the documentary? He claims he was there opening night. What do you guys think? KT, the stage manager. Known for her casual cruelty as well as her breath, KT claims to never lock her office. But Howard was there on opening night and he's claiming it was locked. We should believe Howard. Howard said he heard a noise. Was that noise the paper shredder? What evidence would someone want to shred? Now I know what you want. You want me to show you and read the paper that KT was shredding. All right, let's look at it. Act 1. In black, the sounds of the seaside. Spotlight up on the detective, walking downstage towards us. He wears an overcoat, a loose winter scarf. The detective says, "What turned me into a creature of the night? Let me tell you. I'd just finished up a case in Halifax when I got a call about some curious goings-on at the old Pickwick Lighthouse. I made my way to see for myself." Stage direction. He starts to move up stage then. The detective dialogue continues. But here's the thing. I had no idea that I would leave that blasted rock more dead than alive. Stage direction. At the base of the lighthouse, a shelter door opens with a creak. The nanny says, "Who goes there?" The detective, "Just someone looking for answers." The nanny. 2 words I can't exactly read, but then she continues, "Don't think it's a night for roaming on the rocks." In this kind of orange-red color, it seems to be cues for the crew, like this audio crew playing the sound of the seaside, or the set crew pushing the lighthouse onto the stage. And the green highlight seems to be, okay, this actor needs to be at this place at this time. KT has rat poison in her office. Now we know the theater is crawling with rats. Oliver picks up the rat poison. Did Ben ingest rat poison on opening night? Is that why he collapsed? I questioned if maybe in that room was the mangoes that Ben was looking for. Where was KT on opening night if she wasn't in her office? KT, who always wanted to be a director, may also be superstitious. She knows the best way to prevent Gideon Goosebury from haunting the theater, and that's you have to include him. Howard Morris. Unable to act his way out of a wet paper bag, Oliver's manservant Howard gets the voiceover monologue in this episode. He'd always been trying to sweep Gideon Goosebury's energy off the stage, and he believes that's what killed Ben Glenroy. He does this sweeping ritual about 5 hours before the show opens. We do know Howard did kill something. He killed the State Farm ads that he kept pitching and shilling during the show. Howard heard a noise in the theater, again that could have been the paper shredder. Howard is intelligent. He knows the first rule of a horror movie is don't split up. He also knows that the characters on Three's Company switched out Chrissy for her cousin Cindy. But really, Cindy was just a stopgap cast member until Terry showed up to become the real third roommate. In junior high, Howard was cast as the character John Proctor in The Crucible. Now, if you haven't read The Crucible since high school like me, let's do the Cliff Notes real quick. John Proctor, he's a good man, but he's got a secret fatal flaw. He lusts for Abigail Williams, and his lust led to the affair. John Proctor is an honest, upright man who faces difficult decisions, but in the end he has to ultimately sacrifice his life for his beliefs. Howard's mother was cruel, and she said his voice was shrill. Howard finally gets to perform on stage at the Goosebury on the monologue calling for Gideon to join the show. Jonathan Bridgecroft. Jonathan came to the theater because he wanted to pick up the drugs he got from Dr. C. Jonathan is stressing under the weight of being the leading man in the play, carrying the entire show on his shoulders. And he wants to keep it a secret from his boyfriend Howard because it's Howard's dream to be an actor, to be the lead, and he's living it vicariously through Jonathan. Let's have a brief podcast timeout and talk about something. It feels like the podcast crew is going to dismiss Jonathan as a suspect for really no good reason. Jonathan could be stressing as being the leading man and still have killed Ben Glenroy. But a bit like Kimber earlier this year and Nina, the board president of the Arconia last year, even though there is absolutely zero evidence to dismiss them as suspects, it looks at the end of the episode like Mabel is moving Jonathan off the board. What do you think? Should we still keep an eye on Jonathan Bridgecroft? New suspect Jerry Blau. Producer Donna fired Jerry Blau off the show 1 year ago. That's why she had to hire Oliver to come on to the show. Jerry has been squatting in a room in the theater all this time since then. Jerry is great at killing those rats that haunt the Goosebury. He doesn't need rat poison. He tells Oliver about that night, opening night, when Ben and Loretta got into a fight. Inconveniently, Jerry couldn't hear everything. What do you think? Is there more to that fight that we need to know? Oliver Putnam. Oliver is really in a bad place with his crush on Loretta. So much so, he wants to do a solo mish. He's trying to cover for her. He plans to hide the sign-in sheet so nobody can compare her handwriting to the writing on the mirror. Is Oliver in for heartbreak? What do you guys think? Charles Hayden Savage. Charles and President McKinley are all alone after Joy left. Is that the reason why it seems Charles is a bit jealous of Tobert? Now, we should call PETA for what Charles does to President McKinley in this episode, and in what is surely a psychopathic move. Charles puts McKinley in the toilet tank of water and then flushes it. Oh my God. He definitely shouldn't bring any of these energies to his burrito-sodes. Mabel Mora. We talked about it earlier. Mabel knows Tobert has footage. She should be looking through all of that old footage. Why isn't she? Let's go, Mabel. Come on. Now let's get to your feedback. And in this feedback, some of you guys should be writers. Some of these, I'd be happy if these were the final theories. Now, the real Jen C wrote, "Thanks for calling out so many Easter eggs and clues. Love all these theories." I do too, Jen. This is a fun season of the show to talk about whodunit theories. Talking of great theories, once again, this first one from JT, I think it would be perfect if this was the answer. So here's JT's latest theory. Based on the theme of the nanny mother resorting to murder to protect a child, the imagery of the mother elephant rescuing her child from being stuck in the mud, I think the mastermind of Ben's murder could be Donna, producer Donna. The contents of Maxine's cold review of Death Rattle could have been leaked, and when Donna learned of the dismal reviews, she knew she had to do something to rescue her son Cliff's first production effort. She buys insurance for the play, then she forms a plan to sabotage the play by killing off Ben. With Ben dead and the insurance company covering the losses, Donna had no intention of reviving the play. She thought it was a lovely song that, my love is a lighthouse, but she's gotta stop it. JT continues to write, I've also wondered why Ben, who had never done theater work before, would be cast as the lead in the play. Could Donna and Ben have been involved together in the past? And here's where JT's going. At the party in episode 1, Ben addresses Cliff as boy twice. Could this be a hint that Ben is Cliff's dad? Holy smokes, that would be crazy, wild twist. But I'd be happy if that was the solution. Great work, JT. Now, the Claire wrote, either Tobert has to know more about Ben's life than he's letting on, or Ben chose to have a documentarian around, so the twin had no choice of switching places and spoiling his limelight. Ooh. Jetpack Dino wrote, Loretta is Dickie's mother. She poisoned the cookies to save her son from the abusive Ben. She thought Ben was dead, so she was really shocked when he came back to the party. Here's where Jetpack Dino really goes deep. He says, after the party, Loretta simply went home, but the rest of the cast went upstairs and confronted Ben. They all hated him, and Dickie, his brother, pushed him down the elevator, but they were all in on it. Ooh, everybody killed Ben. Wonderful theory. Someone with the user handle Stationary Wanderer wrote, there is already a twin in Only Murders in the Building that people are missing. It's Zaz. She is Charles's twin. I think Zaz is the killer. Ben was giving Charles a hard time, even being threatening towards him. So what if Zaz bought the hanky on eBay because she wanted to wear one to look like her twin Charles? She finds out Ben is causing trouble for her man Charles. She sneaks up, pushes him down the elevator shaft. And worse comes to worse, if she's convicted of murder, she'll end up in prison with the woman she loves, Jan. Zaz is the killer twin. It's an interesting twist on Vertigo. Wow. Now, once again, these are crazy, wild theories. Here's one from Veronica. I believe a constant theme in Only Murders in the Building is what follows. With Jan and Poppy, they didn't like being second, taken advantage of. I think that Dickie being the killer would follow this pattern given all the photos in the scrapbook that show him as Ben's shadow. Dickie might have been a failed child actor and then Ben was the star. Did Dickie murder his brother to have his big break with Loretta? Then Veronica makes the smart note, they arrested that stalker Greg at the end of episode 2, but Loretta with her scrapbook looks like the bigger stalker. Someone with the user handle Afofa, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, it may just be random letters, they wrote, maybe Loretta didn't give Dickie away for adoption to just strangers, but rather to her sister Babette. Someone with the user handle Simply User wrote, I think Loretta is the mother of Dickie, who was adopted as Ben's brother. Where is Donna? I think Donna is paying for Ben's documentary. Jackie wrote, I think in the final episode of the season, Mabel will get the all-white apartment, and the trio will make the killer, or killers, think they are in the white room having a hallucination. Hot Shoujo wrote, I think Loretta is Dickie's mother, maybe even helping him, but she wouldn't help him with the murder. Chances are really high that that phone call that happened during the party on opening night should lead Ben or to Ben 2's final death. But Loretta was still in the room, so who is the person who called Ben? Jay wrote a hilarious feedback, and I'll see if I can read it in the correct context. She wrote, Tobert may be as fine as wine, but those eyes are very dreamy and dangerous. He is a liar. He lied to Mabel twice now. I don't trust him. Mabel better be careful before she ends up dead with Zoe, Tim, Bunny, and Ben. I hope Mabel ties Tobert up and threatens him with her knitting needles. Whoo! Ice cold. And finally, all the feedback's been great this week. I haven't had time to read it all. But Natalie wrote, I believe Loretta got pregnant young but decided to give up her triplets for adoption. She did what a mother had to do to protect her children, but only Dickie and Ben ended up together, and the third triplet was sent elsewhere. When Loretta found out that Ben wanted to be on Broadway, as was clear from the article in her scrapbook, she decided to try to get cast in the play, in a ploy to get close to him. From his reaction to her at the table read, he may not have known who she was at first. Now, Dickie might have already known that Loretta was their mother and told Loretta where to audition to get close to Ben. Loretta used Dickie as a means to be part of Ben's life. That would explain why at the party that opening night, Ben called Loretta a snake. It also explains why Loretta was late to that original audition and why her name wasn't on the call sheet. It was a last-minute decision on her part. Loretta left the party around the same time as Ben and Dickie. I believe the three of them were in front of the elevator. Both Ben and Loretta had an argument. Ben grabbed Loretta the way he did at the lighthouse prop. Dickie got between them to separate them and accidentally shoved Ben back into the elevator shaft in a bid to protect Loretta from Ben. I also think this will lead Loretta to making a false confession to protect her son Dickie because, again, a mother would do anything to protect her son. Such wonderful feedback. If you're here on YouTube, go down in the comments. If not, send it to us. We love it. This is a great season, as I've said before, to dive into the murder mystery. Okay, now let's get to this Architectural Digest video. It may be nothing, it may be something. If you're worried about non-show clues or spoilers, step away now. It's just odd. I want to say I tend to think it's nothing, but if it's nothing, it's some very specific nothing. Again, this was a promotional video, came out last week, I think last Thursday maybe it came out, and so let's dive into it. You get all sorts of fun Easter eggs. Look at this closet that Oliver has of outfits for Winnie the dog. So brilliant, so fun, interesting to see the thought that goes into these sets. We're seeing Loretta's apartment. Look at this, look at how detailed this is, how much stuff is crammed in this tiny set. But what isn't so obvious is the narration. The person taking us on this tour tells us stuff about Loretta that the show hasn't revealed yet. Loretta has been a gift wrapper at Macy's for 40 years while she was pursuing her dream of making it as an actress. So even though Loretta says she's had success, like that show on the cruise ship, Loretta's main job has been a gift wrapper at Macy's. And then get ready, look at these dressing rooms. A good shot of Kimber's dressing room. The first time we really get a look at Charles's dressing room is in this promotional video. And then we're in Ben Glenroy's dressing room. Here it is, folks. What do you think? Look at this prop. It's an envelope addressed to Ben, love mom. To Ben, love mom, what is going on? Is this from the mom we assume would live back in St. Louis? Or maybe Hollywood with her son? Is this from Loretta? Is this something? Is this nothing? Do we need to compare the handwriting in this envelope to what we've seen before? What do you guys think? Is this a clue? Why is there this specific shot in the video? Only 3 more episodes of clues, and then they're going to reveal the killer. This season is flying by. Guys, we'll be back next week with Season 3, Episode 7, CoBro. Charles finds an unexpected source for a major clue. A Broadway icon comes knocking at Oliver's door, and Mabel forms an alternative trio to pursue a lead that sheds light on Ben's brother and CoBro history. Talk to you next week, Arconiacs.